Good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Lord. I live at 320 Falcon Drive. Yes, the operation is in line. Car's still in line. Actually, it was just like I said last time. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I live at my name is Carl William Lord Jr. I live at 320 Falcon Drive in Little Lake Harbor. I've been a resident for 28 years. Last time you saw me, I was going through a heart operation, and I'm fine. Thank God. Yeah, I had the AFib, and I had the fibrillation. Welded, did blade the left side of the heart. Everything worked out great. One of the things I said to you, if I got well, I am going to run for council, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you why. I got some great ideas. My grandfather, Bob Dreher, I was raised by. He was Commissioner of Public Works in Beach Haven. He also was Commissioner during a 62 storm and Public Works. My grandfather, George Barron-Tolworth, taught at Drexel University, head of the county market assistant dean. I happen to be the other side of the tracks. I'm a union carpenter, originally out of 623 United Brotherhood of Carpenters, Alabama 255, and I'm proud of that. In April, I'm going to be retired, so I got a little bit of time on my hands, and I'd like to serve this township with some suggestions I have to give you the opportunity. I think I can bring something to the table based on where I was raised and what I see what we can do for the future. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to give you my phone number, 609-412-7801. If anybody wants me to come talk to them, I'd be glad to. Give my opinion, your opinion, maybe we can come up with some productive ideas. Not saying that they haven't, but it's time for a change. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good evening, members of council. They go to your 30 Louisiana Drive. I'm so happy that we're going to do more out in the open and let people know what is really going on in town. We've expended a couple of probably $10,000 or more in investigations, and there's a lot of stuff that's hidden and all that thing. And I hope sometime very near future this comes out. We've had settlements at the MUA that cost us out of our pockets $145,000 for sexual harassment. Nobody knows about those things. That's also part of why your bills went up. We have had people steal from the township here to the tune of an excess of $660,000, and that has never been made as a public statement. On what we've done to collect it, basically what we've done to collect it is nothing. We've been adjudicated from up above, and it was just about a dismissed thing. But you've all been paying for that. I think those are the types of things that should be out in the public so that we know what's going on and everybody can comment on them and be aware of what's going on. I think it's fair that as taxpayers, I've been around this place with members of my family since 1963. This type of stuff has been going on in this town for many, many years. And I'd like to see this who shot John type of thing done away with and more openness with exactly what's going on in the town. And I hope what's going on in the town that anybody can read on the internet. You can see it's all over the place. Accusations that are made about people and things like that. And it casts an air over those people and it casts an air over this town. There are criminals out there that they don't call us Little Lake Harbor anymore. They call us Rotten Little Lake Harbor because of the things that are going on. And I'd like to see more openness. I'd like to see more transparency here because that's what this town needs to clean it up. And I hope what's going on now will come out in the public so that everybody can see, people can judge, as well as the people that are going to make the decisions on the individuals. Thank you.
The reason I'm stepping up here is maybe the best way to be here for Mark Brothers. Listening to the list of things that we want to spend money on. I think that my township committee has not heard the cry of the voters last November. They said they wanted to reduce the number of dollars going out. They wanted to contain frivolous expenses. They wanted to say, if we're going to create new positions, we need to have new citizens as part of our population. The interim estimate of population of Little Lake Harbor has gone from always around 21,000 down to above 19,000. We're losing people. So how can we create raises? How can we create new things to buy, new toys to possibly use at the Public Works Department? When the money that was used, maybe say for a sign, the decoration 539, could have been better spent in some sort of need that we have so that we can provide the services that we expect. So when I listen to the discussion earlier, I'm saying, well, how come we get $60,000 worth of grant money and we got to find $200,000 worth of money to go to it? Never mind what may be the cost of preparing documents to get that $60,000. That doesn't sound like a favorable cost benefit. So we got to think in terms of where we spend. And we got to make sure that the benefits to us, the taxpayers, are more. So I think as you go into your closed session, you can talk about contracts. Well, gee whiz, I'd like to have a raise. My governor says no. My president says, oh. And in the meantime, if I go to McDonald's for a Big Mac burger, it used to cost me $1, now it costs me $1.70 plus taxes. And that's all within a little while. So if I can't find the money to buy those things, how can I find the money to pay the bills that will be generated by these expenses? Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Seeing gentleman in the back with the glasses, getting up right now.
Good evening, Roman Carl, 17 Sweetwater Drive. Mr. Ken, your announcement that you will be discussing in closed session something serious. Are we allowed to know what that serious thing is?
What are you referring to, so I don't get...
Your last statement as to what was going to be discussed in session. I presume it's...
No.
No?
But
Okay.
let me make a statement to clarify the public. We have this discussion that will take place based on the report from the special counsel. That will be a public hearing, okay? The items that are involved in an executive hearing upstairs will be based on what I read before, department contracts, dispatch contracts, potential employment of deputy assistant tax collectors. Those must be heard in executive session, in a closed session upstairs. The item we're talking about moving forward, that's going to be a public hearing, is a discussion of the council's investigation and the report he's issued. That is a public session which will start as soon as you're done.
If I could just clarify, there are things that you have to discuss in executive session, and personnel matters are one of them. You have to give the personnel notice that you're going to be talking about them, and then they have the right to request that the discussion of the governing body be held in the public session. So that's what's happened. And that's going to take place after public comment. There's going to be a discussion on the dais of the personnel matter.
Will the public...
Public will be able to
after that?
listen, but it's not a public hearing. You don't have the opportunity to comment. We're having a public comment right now.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone else in the public, Mr. Gentlemen,
Gold, 451 Twin Lakes.
You can't hear. Excuse me, can't hear you.
Keith Gold, 451 Twin Lakes.
Thank you.
2 meetings ago, after the meeting, I asked Mr. Loesch why Barrett still comes in our buildings on the weekend when he's no longer employed here. And he quote unquote told me he's donating free time. And my immediate response was, are you telling me after 6 years you still can't do your job? To me, that's even worth. I have my own business in town. Now, if I pay my employees 5 days a week and he brings in a guy on Saturday to clean up the mess, I don't think I need him. What do you think, Mayor? Isn't enough?
Garrett, you can tell us his opinion, with all due respect. I don't expect you to answer that.
Why?
It's
Well,
public
since-
comment, it's not public question and answer. They don't have-
I
It's
asked
not accusations either. Not a forum for that.
This ain't accusation, this is what I asked in person.
You can make a statement.
Right?
The statement is recorded. Gentlemen in front row.
Good evening, John Barrett, Brick, New Jersey. I didn't think I'd be called out tonight. About a year ago, I was in front of you explaining the tax increase to a packed audience. Councilman Stevens, of course, took honor to the fact that I was here, but I won't return the favor because I respect you in your position. So I forgive you, but that's what the Lord tells me I have to do. To the gentleman that just spoke, accusing me of coming in after hours, I was not reappointed as financial consultant to this township for a number of reasons, mostly political. And I knew that because I've been in this business a very long time. I also knew that Mr. Loesch, as the administrator CFO, was a qualified and certainly is a qualified chief financial officer and administrator. I chose on my own time to come in through a transition out of helping Mr. Loesch, not clean up a mess as this gentleman would restate, but to take care of the business of this township on behalf of the governing body and to make sure that my efforts in helping the financial organization here run smoothly, it was imperative that I get involved as far as donating my time. And to be criticized for donating my time back to the residents of Little Lake Harbor is hypocritical, and clearly for this gentleman who's speaking, it's probably retaliatory because he has some position. Sir, I'm speaking. What I would offer to you is this. You have a great administrator and CFO, which is Garrett Loesch. What's about to happen right now is an embarrassment to the operations of this township and against a good man who runs this township tirelessly, who comes in nights and weekends to do good work for you, the residents. I'm here with my video camera to document what I expect to be a circus of never seen before efforts. And it's unfortunate because you deserve better. There's a few selected council people up here who organized this effort to attack a good man. And I want to let you know that you will not have an opportunity to speak after this, according to the counselor. So if you want to speak your piece as to the craziness that's going on tonight from this point forward, this is your opportunity. But I would hope that you would join me in giving Garrett Loesch a round of applause for a job well done.
Any other comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Jack Baker, Parktown. I've been here for 50 years, and I've known Garrett for quite a few of those years. And there's no question in my mind how honest he is. And there's people in my own family I wouldn't say that about. Garrett is one of the nicest guys, most honest guys you'll ever find.
Can I go?
Absolutely. Ladies first.
All right. Okay, so my name is Summer Farrell. I live at 14 Ridgeway Lane. And tonight I had absolutely no intentions of coming out here. But I will. Because when something is wrong, it's wrong. And there's something very wrong in this town. I started coming here a couple months ago because my son is very interested in politics. Him and several other boys were chosen to go to New Jersey Boys State at Rider University. And this very extremely good program run by the American Legion here in town, who sponsor them and sends him. And I was treated by several members of the committee very poorly, very unprofessionally, and there were things that were said, written, because of my support and my friendship with one certain committee man, who I still stand by 100%. I've been stared at when I'm at meetings, talked about, and I have no political affiliation, attachment, gain. I'm just a member of this community. I'm just a single mom with 2 kids that came to sit in a couple of meetings with my son. I was kind of impressed by Mr. Schlick when I first met him. He knocked on my door, introduced himself, and I was a strict Republican. Let me tell you, I never voted for a Democrat in my life, and I will admit that maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. But he came with me just a smile. And I said, I'm not going to vote for you because one thing is, I think that yellow Hummer with your big face is obnoxious. And he laughed. He didn't give me a nasty look. He didn't talk back to me. He didn't talk to me like I was beneath him. He treated me like a person. He came in, he sat on my couch, and let me tell you, 2 hours later, his sign was on my front lawn. My father came home from a trip, there was my alarm, came home from a trip and seen a sign on the front lawn. And when he found out there was a Democrat sign, he screamed in a fit. Okay? Ever since I met this man, he's done what he said, and he's become a very good friend. I have no idea about anything political. It's my son that likes it. I came to a meeting just to see what this was about, to support him and what he wants to do in the future. I would say that Mr. Schlick welcomed my son, and the only other person that came up to me and said hello was Garrett Loesch. He came up to us after a meeting, he shook us our hands and introduced himself and treated us very nicely. Now, talk about transparency. You know, we're getting real. I've read the articles. I've seen it. If you've done something wrong, it's never too late to change. It's never too late to do the right thing. It's never too late to stand up and say, maybe I've done this wrong, but I can change it. Or somebody likes something of me, and I am innocent. Well, if you're innocent of something and somebody calls your name out, say I'm innocent. Stand up and fight for yourself. Don't just sit there and say I didn't do anything. Don't give me nasty looks. Don't steal my children's pictures off the internet to make Facebook profiles. And that is an allegation that has gone to the police department. But I will not be bullied. I will not be intimidated. And I'll keep coming to these meetings. This is ridiculous. And what you're doing tonight is wrong.
Young man, yours, please.
Jacob Gilbert, 206 like Christopher Drive. I just have a quick question out of curiosity. Which department's responsibility is it for consumer telecommunications, managing permits on cell sites and whatnot?
I'm going to say this forever. Could you say that a little slower?
I wanted to know which department's responsibility it was for telecommunications and managing permits on like cell sites and stuff for mobile network operators like T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, and
Telecommunications
yeah.
in our business is dispatch. So they're the ones that are dispatching the police and things, and that falls underneath the police domain. As far as radio towers and those type of things, they have to come to the planning board for a permit.
Yeah.
So the planning board of the township would oversee those and allow permits when they come and apply. Does that answer that at all?
Yes,
Was there something else you're curious about? Like, why are you asking?
I was just curious.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to speak at this time? Seeing no hands raised?
Motion to close the
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start our meeting, continue from where we left off. Will you all bear with us, and we'll go forward. In regards to all the items that are on the executive session, that includes all of them, formal action may be taken if I fail to read that statement. So just understand that's an official statement of the record. Motion to go to executive session. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Okay, I just want to say, this is a part of the discussion that is usually taking place in closed session. There is no right to public comment or comment by anyone except for the members of the committee and special counsel at this time.
To open up, I do have a few questions concerning procedural issue and what I would call rules of engagement. Since I've heard different stories about who can say what, under what conditions, who can talk, who can't talk. So let me request the assistance of our township attorney in reviewing these items. Item number 1, it was stated in a memo issued that the governing body requested this meeting in total, which means they requested a rights notice. In discussing this particular statement with Lisa Stevens, Dave Schlitt, and myself, as part of the governing body, we did not participate in that discussion or that request for rights notice. So the only question I have is, if the three of us did not request this, who did it?
It's not, the rights notice is required in order to discuss an employee. So that the notice doesn't need to be approved to be sent out. But when you have a report such as this, it needs to be discussed amongst the governing bodies. The notice needs to go out to the employees so that they can then opt for the executive session or the public session.
But who requested it? Since three of us didn't, who requested it?
I think the initial request came from Committeeman Gorman.
Thank you. Second item I have. In my understanding of the rules of engagement, the employees that were noticed, the attorneys that were noticed, had a right to appear, approval by the committee, but they had no right to say anything. The attorneys had a right to appear for the individuals, but they had no right to say anything. So my question is, I'd like to understand the rules of engagement that says who can participate and who can't, right? And where do we go from here? My particular request is that at the end of this hearing, at the end of hearing all the statements that we make, and before we deliberate on a recommendation to do something, that we allow the public's opinion, not on what we say, not on what we're going to do, but like we always do on all resolutions, where you have a resolution with the right to ask what's going on. In this case, I'm requesting and basically demanding that the public has the right for an opinion. Not participating in the discussion, not participating in the statements we propose, for the right of an opinion, just as they have with any resolution that we prepare for the public. So I don't see any rules against this, and I ask the attorney that do they right to have the hearing before the committee accepts recommendations presented by Sal Perillo, who is the investigating attorney. Is there any reason why they can't offer an opinion after the presentation's made, after we deliberate, but there are 4?
In terms of opening up to the public comment, I would defer that to the attorney, since she's more versed in the law than I am, obviously.
This is not what she just asked. She said it's up to us to agree that the public's opinion is allowed after all of the hearing is done, after the report is presented, and we deliberate on it, but before we make a decision on what to do, as recommended in the report. So the answer is, are you in favor of the public's opinion before we make any recommendation? But they are not participating in the deliberation, not participating in the review of the report itself. We understand that. But just at the end, when our review is done, our participation is done, is the public opinion be made.
So maybe you should do a roll call, so we can vote.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I vote yes.
Lisa?
I vote yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just have a question, though, and I guess I would yield to Sal. Sal, I have no objection to the public making any kind of comment. My only concern would be, would it jeopardize any of things moving forward?
First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Sal Perillo. I'm a partner in the law firm of Emac, Perillo & Davis, and we were appointed as special counsel by the township back in December of last year. The proceeding that you're about to engage in is the equivalent of what you have previously, I'm sure, engaged in the past in terms of participating in a closed session to discuss a personal matter. The reason why this is taking place in public is because under the Open Public Meetings Act, the purpose of the personnel exception is to protect the personnel's rights, the employees' rights. And the law says that the employees got the right to decide whether they want the discussion to take place in closed session or an open session. In this case, Mr. Loesch has decided, as is his right, that the discussion would take place in open session. So the discussion is going to take place in open session. At the conclusion of the discussion, I'm going to make recommendations to the governing body for their consideration. And in order for the governing body to implement those recommendations, if you want to implement any of them, you will have to take action. And as counsel has no doubt advised me many times in the past, you can't take formal action in closed session. You can only take formal action in open session. I've sat through your council meeting tonight, the first time I have had the privilege of sitting through your meeting. I've sat through a couple previously in other municipalities, and you apparently have established a practice of inviting public comment on every single legislative action. So to the extent that the governing body decides to take action based upon my report, then I would assume, consistent with your practice and I think consistent with the requirements, that you would take that action in an open meeting, and as you have, and apparently it's your practice, will allow the public to comment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we're all agreed. Now, moving forward, we do have the report in front of us.
Sir, can I ask you a couple questions? A couple times tonight it was called a hearing, but you called it a procedure. What are we waiting for? Discussion?
It's not a hearing. It's a discussion.
It was
Right. Some emails I've got call it a hearing. Some emails I have called it a discussion. I think semantics is not the issue. The point is, whether it's a hearing or a discussion, it's open to the public. And the public's right to know is now being adhered to. So at this point, I would ask again, in regarding the content of the report, so it's clear to me and the rest of the members on the dais, Who on the dais can ask questions regarding its content?
And
Anyone? Thank you. I was hoping for that. Does the public have the right to speak before the committee recommendations are put forward? We agree to that. And the answer is yes. So the question is, so moving forward, I'd like to start with the report and
Sorry, sir, one more thing. Are we,
go ahead.
after this meeting, are we going to make this report public? Is there any rules against it?
it's a personnel record, so it's confidential under OPRA. It's also,
Is it overruled?
it's personnel record. OPRA specifically exempts personnel records except for certain things. So, no.
Well, as I said before, if the employees that are in this report request it to be a public document, and that's what they want, and they're the ones that are in the report, nobody else, do they have a right to request it, and then does the public have a right to declare that this is, when they declare that this is a public document for, as a public report? My concern is that they have the right to request this and not deny it, that they can't request it.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak for a second?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Gray. I work for the law firm of Skier and Catchbone, and I counsel on behalf of Garrett Loesch. Sitting here right next to me, Garrett and I have not seen the contents of this report. But, insofar as Garrett is able to, he consents to the release to the public. You know, he has nothing to hide from what his services have been to the citizens of Little Lake Harbor. He maintains that he's been nothing but an utmost professional. We understand this is a witch hunt in retaliation for some complaints that Garrett made regarding...
You're editorializing a little bit, just...
Excuse me, she's right. Not any comments on that.
Not doing open
You made
statements.
one position clear that Garrett has...
Release the report.
That's it. No other comments are accepted at this time.
Thank you.
One more question, Mayor. The other employee, they're not here. What is the status of that and their attorney?
They had requested that, because they're going to be on vacation this week, that that portion of the hearing be held at the next public meeting.
But you asked our opinion on whether we want to go forward tonight. And did you get our...
I asked if anyone had an objection. However, I think it would be showing extreme bad faith on behalf of the township if he said, I'm not going to be here, I'm on vacation, and held the hearing anyway. You have to honor his request. I did speak with everyone on the governing body, a majority of people consented to adjourn the hearing.
May I make a comment on what you just touched on? In regards to the chief's request, okay, they asked input from us through Robin, and I said no, and I think Dave Slick said no.
I did say that.
I don't know if any other committee members responded to this request, but I have some comments on it regardless of response. If the participation of the employee name and his attorney is denied to speak, why do we do a reschedule, and what is the benefit and to who? If they've been told in advance they have no right to speak because this is an executive session and it's personnel matters, an attorney has no right to speak at a session, as I've been told. So if that's the case, what's the purpose of delaying the chief's request to benefit who? If he can't talk and his attorney can't talk, what changes it between now and 2 weeks from now? I don't know, and I don't understand it. So as a result, that's why I said no.
I have two comments on that.
All right.
He has a right to attend, and you all just have voted to a right to have the public comment, so I believe that that employee should also be afforded the same right.
So that then sort of confuses me in what I was told at one time, and I'd like to read the statement. Although the attorney states that the chief is invoking his right to request a hearing and participate in same, be advised that neither of the noticed employees or their attorneys or any other member of the public have a right to participate in the hearing. I will advise the attorney of such my reply. Goes back to substance and procedure and process. If the notice employee and his attorney has no right to participate in the hearing, whether it be open or closed, this week, next week, or next month, where's the benefit for delaying it, and delaying it? I don't see it.
Because he requested the hearing to be held in public, and he has the right to attend the hearing.
If he has no right to participate and talk, and his attorney has no right to represent him, it's a moot point to me. It's only semantics.
Robin, you said, so 3 people said yes, they're okay with postponing it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. 2 said no, 3 said yes.
So be it. No problem.
We all said yes to the...
I said no.
No,
Okay.
I'm trying to air this out so everything is transparent at the top of the table. No hidden agendas, no hidden anything. So he requested his hearing be scheduled for the 8th of September. Right?
That's correct.
And now the consensus, the majority of the committee has agreed to his request. So at this time, the report, the portion of the report that contains him is not under discussion tonight. Only the portion that is involving Garrett Loesch. So we will narrow down to that portion of it. Now we can move on.
And if they request a copy of this, which I'm surprised they don't have.
Right, another question. Neither attorney has a copy of anything. And if I want to handle it some more, the committee, Lisa, Dave, and myself, were not aware of this being done the way it's going in February, March, April, and May. And neither did we get any information concerning the report, which is fine. By a personal request from me, we got a copy thanks to Mr. Corona. He accepted my request, gave us all a copy, and now we have it. But back to that, we had none, and they knew nothing, and that's the way the system ran. So now we're all on board with the information that we should have, and I'm really surprised that the attorneys that represent the 2 employees have no copy of the report at all, so I don't know what kind of hearing that would be if they don't have copies. And I don't know what opinion the public would have if the public doesn't have any copies. Because this is now the right of public interest, not the legal side, and not the innuendos, and not the rules and regulations. The public's right to know is now.
We're trying to.
You have to guys weigh in.
We're trying
on that.
to get with it.
Okay, enough said. Okay?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, enough.
Maybe request a copy, Mr. Mayor.
I would just say at this time, it's still pre-decisional as attorney-client privilege document. That's up to for a present report, and then go from there.
Okay, we'd like to move on.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Let me start again. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Municipal Council. As I've indicated, we were requested by the township back in December to examine the conduct of different township employees to determine whether their conduct was proper, and if it wasn't, what remedies the town has as a result of any alleged improper conduct. Let me say at the outset, first of all, I think you never know why you're retained. I hope that I was retained for this assignment because of my background, and I think for the benefit of the council people that I only met tonight, and for the benefit of the public, let me share with you a little bit about my background. I've been an attorney in New Jersey for 44 years. From the first day I began to practice law today, I have represented municipalities. I've represented the largest municipality in the state. I was the corporation counsel for the city of Newark. Represented counties. I was the county counsel for Atlantic County. I represented literally dozens of municipalities, either as their attorney or as special counsel. In a moment of weakness back in 2006, after my dad passed away, I figured I would want to do something in terms of making a contribution to the public. In a moment of weakness, I ran for mayor in my town. And in a moment of greater weakness, my constituents selected me. So I have been in that seat, I've been in that seat, in this blue seat, and I've also been in the mayor's seat. And I took this assignment, as I do every assignment, as a very serious assignment in terms of dealing with issues involving public officials. I did not take this assignment lightly. I am not, as counsel so improperly suggested, engaged in a witch hunt, and quite frankly, I resent that comment. What I did was I evaluated information, I digested that information, I then decided how to proceed. I met some roadblocks in terms of how I was going to proceed, and ultimately I issued a written report. Mr. Mayor, the report that I issued, and you were anxious to get it, you called me a couple times, as had the Deputy Mayor, was issued to all the council, all at the same time.
Yeah.
And, okay, with that by way of background, let me now turn to the investigation. First of all, Mr. Loesch, who I had the privilege of meeting tonight for the first time.
Now, I'll make a comment if I may.
Sure.
I respect your credentials and I respect your ability to do this, so I thank you for being here.
Thank you. I met Mr. Loesch tonight for the first time. I would have liked to have met him before tonight, because one of the things that we requested early on was the opportunity to meet with the employees that were involved. We not only were willing to meet with the employees, understandably, if the employees wanted to be represented by counsel, we would have met with the employee and their counsel. We would have met on their terms, on their time, at their convenience. Mr. Loesch, on the advice of his attorney, did not agree to meet with me, but his attorney ultimately got back to me and indicated that he would respond, Mr. Loesch would respond to written questions. I sent his attorney written questions on May 3, 2016. Instead of getting answers directly from Mr. Loesch, I got a letter from the attorney answering the questions. I assume the answers were provided by Mr. Loesch. When I got those, I asked to have those answers certified. Typically in litigation, when you serve written questions in the form of interrogatories, the party answering the questions certifies that the information is truthful and correct to the best of their knowledge. I asked for that. So far, we haven't received that. So this report has been prepared without the benefit of speaking to the employees involved, but based upon some records and documents which, as I go through them, I feel confident are fairly clear in terms of what they indicate. First of all, a little background about Mr. Loesch and his responsibilities. Mr. Loesch was temporarily appointed as the township's chief financial officer on August 27, 2009, and was reappointed effective January 1, 2011 for a 4-year term expiring on December 31, 2014. Subsequently, Mr. Loesch was appointed to the position of Township Administrator and Certified Municipal Finance Officer pursuant to a resolution which was adopted on November 21, 2011. So Mr. Loesch holds two positions. He's the Chief Financial Officer for the municipality, and he's also the City Administrator.
May I ask a question at this time?
Sure.
That period of time in which he was appointed the administrator and CFO, this was then reviewed by the Township Committee and all voted yes and approved of this position that he now holds.
Absolutely. And that's a good point, and that will become relevant as I go through the rest of my report. So Mr. Loesch then received an employment contract dated December 8, 2011, which references his 4-year term as CFO expiring on December 31, 2014, but does not give him any term in his position as the Township Administrator. Initially, he received a salary of $105,000 for being the Chief Financial Officer and $2,000 for being the Administrator. It's important to understand that, and my understanding is Mr. Loesch and the Township are in the process of negotiating a new contract. Pursuant to a statute, a state law, a chief financial officer who holds their position continuously for 5 consecutive years has tenure pursuant to the law. Mr. Loesch, as a result, has tenure. Now, what is the chief financial officer of a municipality? In my experience, it's a very important and significant position. Under the law, the chief financial officer, and I'm quoting from the law now, is to be responsible for the proper financial administration of the municipality under the Local Government Supervision Act, under the Local Bond Law, under the Local Budget Law, under the Local Fiscal Affairs Law, and under the Local Public Contracts Law. So the responsibilities of the CFO, the Chief Financial Administrator, are to see to it that all of those laws are administered consistent with the financial integrity of the municipality. So it's a very, very important position. Although there's no legal prohibition from having one person be the Chief Financial Officer and at the same time be the administrator, and many towns do that to achieve an economy.
May I answer something?
Let me just finish the sentence. The purpose, in my view, the purpose of a Chief Financial Officer is to act as a check and balance on the rest of the municipality. So if, for example, the CFO and the administrator are the same person, there's no CFO to overlook the responsibilities and the actions of the administrator. So whenever you have a person holding two public positions, especially two important and central public positions in the municipality, you lose some of that check and balance.
I do concur with what you're saying, because then it becomes a perception of power and one individual having made too much. Well, going back into the future, when we had a previous mayor, Brian Young, and Ray Rizio was in the position of CFO, we decided back then that to combine the two positions would save us $100,000 a year. So in 10 years, that saves the taxpayers $1 million. Now that's the value of consolidation. If we were to go forward and split it apart, we need to find out what it's going to cost us to hire a separate council administrator and what the numbers are going to tell us. So anybody that thinks they can just wave their hands and don't like what I'm saying, the numbers talk. Let's find out what it really costs to split positions apart, and that's my only argument. We need to review this, investigate, and say, how many dollars are the taxpayers willing to pay for a separate administrator? Because that's the crux of my particular view.
That's understandable. Many municipalities combine positions to achieve economies. Well, one of the things that happened in this case, and again, typically it happens, is that the salary breakup between, in this case, the administrator and the CFO is disproportionate. In Mr. Loesch's case, he gets $105,000 for being CFO and $2,000 for being administrator. What that means from the municipality's point of view is he's got a CFO who serves for 4 consecutive years, gets tenure in their position, and has certain protections that the law gives to a CFO, in part to make sure that they can operate independently and they feel that they have protection through tenure. An administrator doesn't have those same kinds of protections. So if, for example, you were to discharge an administrator, you would only be eliminating $2,000 of the salary, and you would still have the salary of the CFO, assuming that you didn't have grounds to remove a tenured employee. So one of the things to look at in the future is the balance of compensation between the two positions. When it's grossly disproportionate, may not be the best way to do it. Hey, let me now talk about...
I agree with what you're saying. You're right. I'll go back to continue, please.
Just one correction, okay, it's 2,000 per month.
Oh, I'm sorry. I stand corrected.
Thank you, Red.
That's my error. Okay, let me get back. Ms. Loesch was appointed administrator pursuant to NJSA 389-137, which is a state law that indicates that he serves at the pleasure of the governing body. If the administrator is to be removed, he's got to be removed by a 2/3 vote of the governing body. The resolution of removal becomes effective 3 months after its adoption. So unless the administrator does something egregious, if you want to remove an administrator, in effect, they end up getting 3 months of severance pay, where they end up remaining in their position 3 months after you take action. The governing body can provide that that resolution can have immediate effect, but they're required by law to pay the salary within 3 months following the adoption of the resolution. Okay, as will be seen, the interplay between responsibilities of administrator and CFO have some bearing with regard to this case. Now, the mayor indicated that, and the council indicated, one of the employees that is involved independently and also involved with regard to Mr. Loesch is not available, was not available tonight, has asked for his part of this proceeding to take place at another meeting. So I'm not going to go into anything involving that employee. Let me now turn to the other situation which involves somebody else. Okay. The governing body adopted a resolution in 2012, Resolution 2012-162, adopting what the resolution called, quote, Memorandum of Agreement between the Township and the Little Lake Harbor Township Employees Association. This is kind of the collective bargaining agreement, but it really wasn't. It was a memorandum of agreement which was annexed to the previous collective bargaining agreement. The memorandum of agreement indicates that it's effective from January 1, 2012 through December 31, 2014. The resolution was adopted at a meeting that was held on July 23, 2012. The resolution indicates that the memorandum was adopted and a copy was attached. Now, this is important. The resolution authorized the mayor of the township to execute and the township clerk to attest to the agreement with the Employees Association. Although the contract expired December 31, 2014, no new contract has been entered into, although the employee group, at least at the time I report, was involved in negotiations with the township. But the practice in municipalities is that if the contract expires, both sides continue to honor the contract after the expiration. The memorandum of understanding was signed on behalf of the association negotiating team and for the township negotiating team by Eugene Coburn, who at the time was a member of the township committee. The memorandum is dated July 20, 2012. The important relevant part of the memorandum is paragraph 7. And that says that in the event that the township enters into a shared services agreement with another government entity and results in additional duties for any member of this bargaining unit, the township will meet with the affected individual employee and engage in negotiations over possible additional compensation for any extra duties. So if the township enters into a shared services agreement, the township is going to meet and engage in negotiations. The township has, as I think most people know, a number of shared services agreements. We have been given a copy of the document which is captioned Agreement for Shared Services Compensation between a gentleman who was then the Public Works Superintendent and the township. The agreement reflects that that gentleman and the township have reached an agreement for compensation in the years 2014 and prior and the year 2015 moving forward, and that the mayor has the authority to act on behalf of the township in this contractual matter as granted by Resolution 2012-162. That's the resolution that I referred to earlier, and the important paragraph is that paragraph 7. Now, I have inquired of Mr. Loesch through his attorney who prepared that agreement with the language that the mayor was authorized to act pursuant to that resolution. Because as I read the resolution, I do not believe legally the mayor was authorized to act. Mr. Loesch says he does not recall who prepared it. He thinks that it may have been prepared by the employee, by the Public Works Superintendent. The agreement goes on to provide that the employee will receive $10,000 for all of his additional shared duties performed prior to December 31, 2014, and that he'll receive an additional amount of $15,000 added to his base salary beginning January 15, 2015. So the employee got $10,000 for past service related to shared services, and then the agreement was he would get $15,000 a year every year thereafter beginning January 15, 2015. The agreement is signed by Arthur Midgley, who was then the mayor of the township, and is also signed by Mr. Loesch as administrator on a box that indicates witness. At the bottom of the document are handwritten notes which we've been advised have been written in the handwriting of the payroll clerk indicating that the $10,000 would be charged to a 2014 payment account and the $15,000 payment would be added to the base charge to the existing budget line. And the note says, as per G. Loesch, Mr. Loesch. So the payroll clerk was indicating on the document where the money would come from, and she indicated she was acting pursuant to the direction of Mr. Loesch. The real question, and the focus of our examination of these documents is a couple of things. First of all, as I indicated earlier, in my opinion, the resolution did not give the mayor or Mr. Loesch the ability to give an employee retroactive compensation or additional compensation of their base salary in the future. There's a state law that says that can only be done by the governing body. And I sat here tonight and I saw that the governing body apparently may sometime tonight take action authorizing additional compensation to employees. And that is a basic tenet of municipal law. The fact that an administrator, CFO, and even a mayor, under this form of government or other forms of government that are familiar with, do not have the right to increase the compensation of an employee. That's got to be done by the governing body, in this case, the township committee. So I focused on that in my research. Mr. Loesch, in response to the letter that I sent and the response I got back from his attorney, indicates to his attorney that he and Mayor Midgley met with the employee in late 2014 or 2015. Mr. Loesch, through his attorney, took the position that paragraph 7, that paragraph that I read, gave him as the administrator the right to negotiate with Mr. Donnelly, but that any, and I'm quoting from the letter, quote, any approval of the negotiation would be reserved to the governing body or the mayor. So Mr. Loesch was telling me through his attorney that he didn't have the authority to approve compensation retroactively or prospectively, and that it could only be done through the governing body or the mayor. Now, respectfully, it can't, as I've indicated, it can't be done, in my opinion, through the mayor. So the fact that Mr. Loesch thought that it could be done through the mayor was I think, erroneous on his part. Mr. Loesch was provided a copy of the note that has provided us with a copy of the note from Mr. Donnelly addressed to Mayor Midgley, in which he indicates a list of the tasks that the employee, I mentioned his name, I shouldn't, that the employee performed with regard to the shared services. And there's a typewritten note at the bottom of the employee's note from Mr. Loesch to the mayor recommending that a lump sum of $10,000 for past services and $15,000 for future services be added to his salary. Below that handwritten note at the bottom is a note from then Mayor Midgley agreeing to Mr. Loesch's recommendation and telling him, quote, please proceed with the above mentioned recommendation, exclamation point, close quotes. Now, again, as a CFO and as administrator, when the mayor tells you to proceed with the recommendation, it should have been known that the mayor may have been saying, you, Mr. Loesch, go ahead and implement the recommendation, but the recommendation could not be implemented without the action of the governing body, and that's something that should have been known. I focused on whether or not the employee ended up receiving additional compensation. One of the questions I asked was whether or not Mr. Loesch's approval of that payment was in his capacity as administrator or his capacity as chief financial officer, and there was no indication what capacity he was acting in. The agreement
Excuse me, Sal, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
When you make these, I'll call them accusations, do you want us to comment on them as we go? Wait until the end.
I'm almost done. And again, there was a question as to whether or not this is a hearing. Not a hearing, and I'm not making accusations. What I'm doing is I'm giving you my opinion in terms of what I think the law is and what I think the
I'm asking, do you want any input from us or from the other lawyer?
No, again, you've been advised by your attorney that the only difference between this and a closed session, and if this was conducted in closed session, Mr. Loesch or his attorney would not be permitted under the law to be present. The fact that it's conducted in open session doesn't change the procedure at all. The procedure is for counsel to confer, counsel as an attorney to confer with the governing body, and for the governing body to ask questions back and forth. So this is not a hearing.
Okay, but that's what I'm asking you. Do you want it back and forth? Because we're in that room, I would have been yelling at you to hurry up by that.
Yeah, well, the time that we spent going back and forth, I couldn't decide.
Okay.
Let me just say. Okay. The agreement authorizing additional compensation, Mr. Donnelly, according to our research, was never authorized by the governing body. And in my discussions with 2 members of the governing body, they've indicated they did not become aware of this agreement until recently. Although the agreement was stated that the mayor was acting pursuant to the authority granted to him in the resolution doesn't give the mayor any authority to do anything other than the township engaging in negotiations. And I think arguably the mayor could be given that right to engage in negotiations, but not to award additional compensation without the approval of the governing body. The resolution doesn't indicate who's authorized to negotiate on behalf of the township. Even if the resolution authorized the mayor to engage in negotiations, the resolution doesn't authorize the mayor to enter into a contract on behalf of the township. And if it did, for the purposes of compensation, that would have been improper also. So in my opinion, the provisions of the law governing the handling of compensation for employees was not followed. And in my opinion, that should have been that it should have been followed, and I think Mr. Loesch, both in his position as administrator and as the CFO, had the responsibility to properly advise the mayor with regard to the procedure. And if he didn't know the procedure, he should have consulted with counsel. I'm sorry.
I do have one item I'd like to bring up at this time. The crux of one of the issues that we dealt with is the reimbursement of $2,764.60.
We can't discuss that.
No, that's for the employee that's not here tonight.
Okay. I guess I'm out of order. Now, moving forward, we do have information from the employee's attorney that was derived from a question and answer session that was given to him by, I suspect, Mr. Perillo or the organization, while I believe his attorney was present, and some of the answers he gave, I think, are pertinent to what we've been discussing, because it's his testimony now that is relevant.
Well, just so we understand, what you're referring to, which was attached to my report, is my letter to Mr. Loesch's attorney, listing the questions I wanted Mr. Loesch to answer.
Right.
And what you're referring to now is Mr. Loesch's attorney's response to my letter. These are not answers from Mr. Loesch, these are answers from his attorney. Go ahead.
But these are also answers by way of request, the questions he was asked. So he personally answered the questions, not the attorney.
Yes.
If I may, I want to highlight some of the responses that were given in regard to questions. Okay. First item is item 2 under the question. I was aware of paragraph 7 is noted. As a matter of fact, the provision was added to the 2012 contract because Ray Goldman wanted the ability to give Dana Cook Wilson additional money when we took over the LEH anyway, he stated to Patrick Cullen. Dana, as well as myself, would benefit financially from the MUA. I'm sorry I mentioned this. As myself would benefit financially if the MUA was dissolved, which he was actively attempting to do. The issue was here that Mr. Goldman pursued an advocacy with promises to other people to dissolve the NUA. That's a matter of record, and you can do it the way you want.
Oh, boy.
We're always talking about improving the town. Now, after Sandy, and directly spoke to Goldman, who told him that the timing wasn't right. Whatever that means, what they discussed could be a form of further examination. As I recall it, after 2012, I can mention this name, but he doesn't work here anymore. 2012, after Donnelly spoke to Goldman. Okay? Next item.
Sorry, we just don't have, let us continue.
Mr. Mayor, if I could suggest that you try to avoid mentioning names of...
Well, I just answer if I could mention. Okay, I will not mention any names anymore. Just mention the pattern of what occurred and the questions I would ask Mr. Garrett and his answers. Now, if this becomes a public report, which it should be, then I need not to go through these questions and answers and bore the public with this part of the report. So when it becomes public, you guys can make up your own decision, what was said, when it was said, and his answers.
If I may, Counsel.
No more yelling.
If I may, I believe this discussion is supposed to be amongst each other at this time, discussing stuff. So I just like to make a comment to Mr. Coburn. Of course, Mr. Nuttall is in the audience. He was up on council, back in that day when this all occurred. So my question to you, of course, you're stating certain things in there and stating names, but I got to ask you, you were here in 2015. I don't see anything on record, a resolution about Mr. Donnelly for the payment that was paid out. Was there a resolution back there, Mr. Coburn? And if there was, I would like you to actually give it to our council because we don't have it in our file or this report. And if there wasn't a resolution, why wasn't there a resolution? Because past practices, if you're going into contract negotiations or anything, or paying out an individual in that manner, there's always a resolution to authorize that kind of compensation through the governing body. And I'll say it again, we are not a Faulkner committee. We're a committee of 5, and we all have to agree on compensation. So again, my question to you, you can answer it or you don't have to answer it. You sat up here on this committee back in 2015. Was there a resolution back then authorizing that payment by this committee or that past committee?
I think in Mr. Farrell's report, he addressed that. Okay, that he addressed the issue in the report. And the issue was the fact, and I would agree, that the committee has the right to weigh in on all of these items, and we discussed it early in the year when we were talking this year's negotiations. And I said this to the governing body and all of you. Going forward this year, there will never be a negotiation nor a contract that's not put in front of the full committee to discuss, review, and eventually approve. I said that before and so forth, but every negotiation being done this year by Lisa, by Dave, by me, and by Garrett, and our council, it'll all go in front of the committee for review and endorsement. If not, it doesn't get approved. That's a procedural issue that will be within this year.
You're getting off course. Of course, there was a question with the resident. We're getting off course, and because you're wasting people's time by chatting. So I'm trying to make this quick and simple. I read the report. We found it. I caught it back in 2015. We didn't know anything about it until August of 2015 when I requested department heads' salaries. I didn't get that salary ordinance until December of 2015. So I seen what was the breakdown. I seen the number figures of Mr. Donnelly. Didn't know how he got to the bigger amount. It would really mess me up because I'm thinking, well, when did we negotiate any other money for this $15,000 and the $10,000? So at that time, we needed a conflict attorney because Gilmore Monahan would be conflicted out. At this time, I would like to make a recommendation, and through Sal's report, and I know Mambo and Jumbo going around here, is this matter, we don't know if it's criminal or not, like you said. We can't make that decision.
I actually think he stated it's not criminal.
Well,
did you not, sir?
No, he doesn't.
In your report?
No, he doesn't think it's criminal. But we can't determine that because we're not that kind of prosecutor.
Well, could I just interject? In my report, I give the committee a number of options in terms of things to consider as possible action. I don't think it's appropriate for you to be talking about those now until you get the other half of the report dealing with the other employees. think in fairness to the committee, you need to have the whole picture.
Well, and this is where, of course, I'll make it short and sweet, so of course you don't have to come down again and charge and all this other good stuff. But I believe all of these matters that you have present, I believe there's something that has to be done, there's some kind of discipline. But at this time, I'm going to recommend to the governing body that this be sent up to the prosecutor's office and the ethics board. Let them make that determination if it was criminal, or if the recommendation comes down that to do any kind of thing to Mr. Loesch or the other individual, at that time we can take action. So I recommend to the governing body at this time to send this up to the prosecutor's office, and if they're conflicted out, send it to the AG's office. But I believe that you, Mr. Pearl, have to send that because I believe Gilmore and my hand are conflicted out.
Would you need our permission to send that to the prosecutor's office?
Yes, yeah, the governing body...
I did not give you permission.
Oh, great, yeah.
Well, again, I'm not going to call it like it is because I think that would be inappropriate at this time. That's why I would like to have the prosecutor office look at it because, you know, as Dave would grandstand up here and everything and call corruption and everything, but I don't know what he calls this. I mean, the burden of proof is in your report. You know, so if the burden of proof is right in front of you, Mr. Schlick, you're anti-corruption, why wouldn't you send it up to the prosecutor's office to have them represent you?
I've read the report over and over, and I don't see where there's any, and there's also, for instance, it says John Cameron as mayor, I looked it up and I wrote it down, also includes compensation for exempt employees without court approval.
What exempt employees?
But it was after
What exempt employees?
I don't have
We can't name them. We can't name them. And that's the problem. We can't name anything, and the attorneys can't see the report.
Past practice, and Mr. Schlick wouldn't know this because he's only been on the board a short time, past practice is there's a resolution that is given to the governing body to approve for compensation. Doesn't matter if it's Patrick Donnelly Police Department, any contract, it's approved by the governing body, not one entity. Not the mayor, not the administrator, not the CFO, the governing body, and that's past practices. That's how it's been. Mr. Loesch knows the rules and laws here. That's how it's been.
Excuse me, my turn. We did state earlier in the discussion that we would not review or discuss any recommendations until the public had a right of their opinion. So now we're going forward beyond that and starting to do recommendations, which we said we would do after the public's opinion and the right to speak. So right now, I'm asking the public for the right to speak because we haven't gotten into the recommendation phase yet, even though they're articulated.
Again, Mayor, we were talking amongst ourselves. This is like an executive session because we're upstairs. We can talk amongst ourselves. That's all it
Not
is.
an executive session, we were upstairs.
I guess you don't understand how this is working.
Yeah, I certainly know. When it's an open public executive session, no record of the report, there's no defense to have, there's no questions to ask. The employee has no right to say anything, and neither does his attorney. So let me tell you about the right for due process. Do we have it, or we're just mashing words around and going around and around and around? So I'd like to end this debate on all these technicalities and move forward to the opinion of the public, and we'll go back to making recommendations after they're done. Because we now heard the report, we've all read it, John has read it, and I don't want to get into a floor fight over opinion.
If I could, Mr. Perillo recommended that you hold off on any recommendations about potential discipline until the entire report is presented, which would be after the other employees also addressed.
And all I recommended was, there's no discipline going on here now. Send it up to the prosecutor's office directly. Let them recommend if there is any discipline that has to be followed or if there is any wrongdoing really going on. That's all I recommend.
That's been contrary to what she just said. No recommendation should be made under these conditions. So?
May I interject, please? In reviewing the report, there are some items that I would like to address. However, I also would have to bring in the other employee. And again, because the employee requested to have this carried, I don't know that we can really go much further because of the crossing of some of these issues. If I were to make a recommendation based on one of the issues that we are able to talk about, I would like to take this in a step process and not jump the gun. Do I think this may have to be looked at through forensic auditor or the municipal financial organization? That would probably be my first recommendation. We don't even know if there has been any criminal activity, and I think to jump right to the prosecutor's office would be highly pushing it further before we actually can deem the facts as they are. So I would like to see it go first to the municipal finance investigation. That's just my opinion, only because we can start that process while we wait for the next month when the other employee is here. So we can at least start the process on one.
Thank you, Lisa. At this time, I would like the public now to offer their opinion, as we said we would do, going forward. So please state your name.
Mayor, excuse me, can we limit the time on the comments?
I don't think we can limit the time to speak and violate the rights to talk. That's what the attorney only talks about.
No, you can actually set a time.
Oh, you said a toilet.
Yes.
Does that mean in all sessions going forward? Every session, we can set a time limit on Mr. Forward?
I don't know Mr. Forward out, but there are sounds that have a timer on the wall.
Okay.
Tells you your 3 minutes.
Well, we will review that opportunity, I guess, at another time.
I'm only requesting because this is an entirely different circumstance in terms of the type of meeting. This is actually our executive public session.
Name and who you are, please?
Ed Gautier, 30 Louisiana Drive. I'd like to see the report. It looks like you've got a man here that has had perfect audits for a number of years in a row. No recommendation whatsoever to make any corrections. What I was hearing here, and I'd like to see the report, and I'd like to see this gentleman's list of possible things that should be done to correct this, whether it be a reprimand or whatever it is. But the way I'm looking at this, the man had an automobile accident, and you're taking him up there on a murder charge. You're jumping the gun. Partial information, and we have a
we can't speak about it because we're getting interrupted by the mayor, so we can't.
Well, we're in the same position, but you don't have any other solution than let's take it to the prosecutor. Let's hang him. I don't see that.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that, Mr. Ed? Why would you say that? I didn't say that in any way. I said let them make a recommendation. Let them make a recommendation if there is a criminal act. If there was. That's what's in this report, that we read it all up here.
The whole thing is the man took a
That's all I said.
from the
I
mayor.
didn't say he was
And
guilty.
he did
I didn't say anything. There was a report done.
Well,
And that's what
I don't agree with your approach. I think it's...
Excuse me, both you guys. I don't appreciate a public argument based going back and forth like this, and the public doesn't either. I think at this time, Mr. Gautier would like to make a statement, I'd like to have it. You may disagree with it, John, and that's fine, but to debate it back and forth, I think it's a disservice.
That's why I thought we were just supposed to make a statement on our feelings.
That's right.
You heard my feelings, I articulated them, and I'm finished.
Thank you. Anyone else? You're an attorney. Okay. Mr. Forward is up first. He's up first.
No. Can I wait?
the word up, Mark Grove. I hate what I'm hearing, in that I'm only going to be able to hear half of the story. And I think before I give an opinion, whether there is a breach in the public trust, I need to have the whole story. It almost sounds like a reporter that was on the radio once upon a time. And with that, I think that there are two things that should be considered in view of the public interest. Number one, some of us are older, which means we should get to bed. So therefore, I would suggest that all of this session be continued until September. And with that, I hope you take my advice. Thank you.
Mr. Neville, I would like to answer a question, if I may. Yes, you. In the history, going back to December, back to the future, in regards to the resolution that was approved by the then city committee to hire the conflict attorney. I'd like any comments, because you were present, I was present, and I know, and you know, we voted yes.
Yeah, we were asked to pass a resolution by title, and that's extremely vague. Doesn't tell you what the details are on it. I took it to understand it had the elements of reviewing the employment contract for accuracy and appropriateness for Mr. Loesch, and that's all. I had no indication that it was for the purpose of doing any kind of internal investigation at all. That's the problem with resolutions by title. They're very vague, and what happens after it's passed is out of your control, so you trust the people that make the motion for a resolution. Sometimes it doesn't turn out to be what you understood its purpose to be. So that was my recollection.
Thank you for the comment, and I will say what you just said. I did trust the people who requested that this resolution get approved.
Yeah, and from what I've heard so far, we've only heard part of it. Nobody's seen the report, but I see no indication that Mr. Loesch in any way enriched himself from any of this. It was no advantage for him in any way from the statements of Mr. Parola. Well, if someone's going to do something criminal, they do it to enrich themselves. Mr. Loesch did not enrich himself in any way. So to me, no harm, no foul. Beyond that, I just, as long as I've known him, he's been an excellent employee. He's done a wonderful job. He's gotten compliments on the excellent work he did as a CFO and as an administrator. In fact, I don't know any administrator in the state, and the CFO in the state, that is as good as Mr. Loesch. And that's my opinion, my statement.
Thank you. Next individual, young man in the front.
I'll go there just so we
Yes,
have it
please.
here to non-public. Christopher Graves here in Catchment 100 Horizon Center Boulevard, Hamilton, New Jersey. I am counsel on behalf of Garrett Loesch.
Into the mic, please.
And I know just as much about it as you guys do right now. The things that really concern me is the township was aware and council was aware in March of 2015 that members of council were going to retaliate against Garrett Loesch, who was a whistleblower for some fraud that happened during Hurricane Sandy regarding a council member. It was put in an email directly to township council saying, they're going to come after me. It's only a matter of time pretty much. What protections do I have? So here, we get here tonight and we find out some important things. 2 council members started this. 2 council members were the only ones in contact with the investigator. 2 council members were responsible for bringing the rice notice. So I can kind of read the writing on the wall that there's 2 council members, including one that just made some references as criminal now. They have some sort of retaliatory intent regarding Garrett Loesch. What concerns me is they've been investigating this for 8 months. They've spent over $11,000 investigating this. And what they've come up with is Mayor Midgley authorized a salary change for an employee that was authorized under an ordinance or a resolution that may or may not have been right, but clearly Mayor Midgley was involved and had authorized it. It wasn't Garrett that authorized it, who was only a witness, as they said, a witness on a contract. So when I look at this, and they're now saying, oh, let's throw around words and say, we got to send it to the prosecutor's office, we got to do all these serious things. For what? For a CFO and administrator who did his job, who came to work every day, who actually reported and weeded out what he thought was fraud during Hurricane Sandy and in the aftermath of the tax appeals? So it's very disappointing to see that it's even gotten this far. And now look, I don't have a report. I don't have the information, but what I can tell you just listening here is what investigation was there? Did someone interview Mayor Midgley? Did someone go to the clerk's office and look for ordinance and resolutions? What was actually done for this $11,000? We know that they sent a questionnaire, they got responses, they were offered certified responses but didn't respond. I have the emails. The documents were provided, Garrett provided all the ordinances, resolutions, documents, everything that they wanted. And this is what we're left with. So it's very concerning that they're talking about, ooh, we got to refer this for criminal, or we have to take some other disciplinary action or something else. Garrett works hard. Garrett's here in his own time, after hours, soliciting the help of some friends that used to work here who were not necessarily treated the right way when they were pushed out the door. He cares about what happens here in Loesch Harbor and has worked very hard for the position that he's in. He is both a CFO and an administrator, which is a significant cost savings of at least $80,000 to $100,000 just in salary. Don't forget the benefits, the pension, and everything else on top. So, in light of everything that's going on here, there's nothing here. We've all now wasted our entire evening tonight sitting here listening to this back and forth for nothing. So if council wants to take any action tonight, just end this tonight. Just say, we're done. We're not paying for any more investigations. We were going to investigate who commenced an investigation into an investigator at some point in time. It got so confusing with everything that was going on. Just put this to bed. You can't show Garrett did anything wrong. You got 2 people that want this, and I can assume hopefully 3 of you don't. That's why you weren't in the loop. So put it to bed. Let's move on. There's plenty of other things going on in this township that need real attention and real money spent towards it, instead of this witch hunt. So I think that everyone should just applaud Garrett for what he's done, what he's continued to do for the township, and how he sits here, says, I want this in open session. Look at the documents, look at the reports, look at my response to it. I have nothing to hide. You know, that's the mark of a true person with integrity that should be supported by this town and not crucified by it.
Anyone else from the public wish to make any comments? Yes, sir.
Ben Andrew, Maryland Road. I'd just like to say as a taxpayer, I'm a little disappointed in what's been going on for months. First of all, nothing in this discussion indicates whether or not the $10,000 paid to Mr. Donnelly was bona fide or not. And I suspect it was, if Garrett had a hand in it, because Garrett will tell you 3 years ago, I started badgering him about how the town was spending his money, and he's never disappointed me in giving me a candid, honest answer. It sounded very responsible. So I have a lot of faith in Garrett. Secondly, for a couple of people on the committee, and I know all the people on the committee, and I'm pretty bipartisan, and I respect you all for what you do, but to have a couple of people spend more than the $10,000, and almost the $15,000, which might have kept Patrick Donnelly, who was probably the best public works guy in the town here, is despicable. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it seems counterproductive, and quite frankly, it does seem vindictive to me. And I don't get it.
This is men. I'm just the men that work for him if he was that good.
Well, none of that shouting from the audience.
So if there is a way to put this to bed constructively and move on, that would be great. You know, it does seem to be a waste of time and money, at least from what I've heard tonight. And at the very least, there should be some discussion about if there was a procedural faux pas
That's one thing. If the $10,000 is graft or corruption or something that does incorrect, maybe you have a case. But in the absence of that, I'm not convinced you're doing anything except wasting a lot of time. Thank you very much.
For the record, for Mr. Andrews, it wasn't just $10,000, $25,000.
For the record, just explain to us what that was all about. Obviously, there was a procedural issue.
I'd just say at the very least, we've seen that it contains some personnel information for other employees, so it needs to be presented.
Are we going to close to the public?
Any other,
Continue discussion?
excuse me, any other comments from the public? In your hand raised, I agree with Lisa. Need a motion to close this portion of the public.
Second.
Moving on to the
All right. Technicalities, we're not closing. We're going upstairs to review 3 contracts and a potential appointment. And we'll be back as a closed session item. Thank you for being here. Need a motion to
close executive.
Close the executive session?
Close the...
Would you say?
Take a motion.
Motion to close the executive session and motion to open the regular meeting. Motion.
Second.
Who's the first? Lisa.
Please. We need roll call? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Kemp? Yes. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Schleck?
Yes.
Mr. Colbert?
Yes. The township meeting is now open for the decisions of the governing body on the 3 contracts, department head contracts, dispatches, and also the potential appointment of deputy assistant tax clerk. Which one we do first?
Okay, we're going to do Resolution 2016-175, which is authorizing the execution of a memorandum of agreement with the department heads.
Making a motion to approve.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gorman?
I have to abstain and cannot participate.
So, for the record, Mr. Kemp?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Schleck? There's
2 issues in there. We're not allowed to change just individual issues, so I'm going to vote no.
So, for the record, and Mr. Colbert?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 2016-176, which is authorizing the execution of a memorandum of agreement with the Government Workers Union of Telecommunicators,
AKA dispatchers.
AKA dispatchers.
Motion to approve.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gorman?
Yes.
Mr. Kemp?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Schleck?
Yes.
Mr. Colbert?
Yes. Last item.
Resolution 2016-177, authorizing the appointment of Donna Stansfield as Deputy Assistant Tax Collector.
Making a motion.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gorman?
I have to abstain and cannot participate.
For the record, Mr. Kemp?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Schleck?
Just to be clear, it's for the position, not the salary, right? Correct?
there will be an increase in salary.
And
She
they asked
doesn't
him
really
to
know what the
motion.
increase is. I mean, are we going to negotiate or?
No, I think we were just
We
trying.
did, but she didn't. Maybe she doesn't agree with the number that we came up with.
Well, you were just going to appoint her at this amount if you don't want to vote for the appointment.
I'll vote at our amount, yes.
Hmm?
Then yes to our amount and acquisition.
And Mr. Kohler.
Yes. Okay.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second the motion.
Everybody in favor?
Absolutely.
Meeting adjourned at 12 o'clock. All the work done. Thank you one and all.
I don't know when we're going to give our